Hello students, very good morning. Today we will study Alfred Tennyson's poem The Lotus Eaters. Since this is a long poem, so we will study it in two parts. So today we will study first part of it. The poem is already divided into two parts. The first part and first half and second half of this Lotus Eaters are formed differently. The first half is divided into five stanza of nine lines. These nine lines are referred to as Spencerian stanza due to they are used by Spencer in his famous book The Fairy Queen. And second half of this poem, there are eight. Uh, Second half of this poem is a different. Second half of this poem is structured much more loosely. There is no defined rhyming scheme, just as each section has its own theme, and so does it have its own rhyming schemes. So today we will study first part of this poem, The Lotus Eaters. As we all know, Alfred Tennyson was one of the greatest poets of Victorian age. In this poem, he took the theme from Iliad. So the first in the Iliad and Odyssey, first part of Iliad, the book Iliad is based on the Troy War, and the second book, Homer's Odyssey, that is the narration of return of Odysseus from the War of Troy. So Tennyson's poem is based on a portion of Homer's Odyssey in which Odysseus and his army, they are coming after the completion of War of Troy, and now they are fed on lotus plants and become menaced by the land onto they are stumbled. So after this journey, return from Troy to Ithaca has taken them almost 10 years. So during their voyage, they have felt many misfortunes and misadventures. In one of their misadventure, they reached to an island, and that island was full of lotus. All of his mariners stay there, eat lotus, and become burnished with the beauty of that lotus island. And ultimately, they decided to stay there for forever. So, the poem begins with Odysseus commanding to his men to have courage. Why? Because they are totally exhausted, totally tired with the long journey, and they soon find an island, and they do so almost immediately, and they were connected with the beauty of that island. So his men are looking as their surrounding as the lotus eaters. They appear and deliver to their main branches, and all these things happen in this poem, as we will see in that. And the second half of the poem is made up of a choric song, in which the men describe the reasons that they want to remain on the island. They give reason after reason to stay on that island throughout their life. And the poem concludes with the men stating once more, reassuring one another that their wonders are fully finished and they will stay on that island forever. So now we will start this poem, Lotus Eaters. Okay, so come to the poem Lotus Eaters. I will study one by one, stanza by stanza, and then try to explain. So I am going to read first stanza of this poem. Courage, he said, and pointed toward the land. This mounting wave will roll us shoreward soon. In the afternoon they come unto a land in which it seems always afternoon. All round the coast the languid air did swoon, breathing like one that hath a weary dream. Full faced above the valley stood the moon, and like a downward smoke, the slender stream along the cliff to fall and pause and fall did seem. So the first word, courage, he said, he who Odysseus. Odysseus tell his mariners to have courage. Why? Because they are totally exhausted with their voyage. So the poem begins with the Odysseus, the king of Ithaca, driving from his men through the mountaining waves, and he said he pointed toward the land. He just make an indication that in the sea there is an island, and then say this mountain wave will roll us shoreward soon. Very soon we will reach this mountain wave. So they are amidst midst of their 10-year journey home from battle of Troy. Tennyson's poem began after the GS has swept Odysseus' boat along the land of Lotus eaters, as it can be read in Homer's Odyssey. And then Odysseus is encouraging his men, telling them to have courage in the face of these mighty waves that GS has sent them. This next one, he tells them that it will surely roll us shoreward soon toward shore, toward the island. This mountain wave, this strong wave will make us reach to that shore. His words end up with being true, and the men are brought to the land by the afternoon. What kind of afternoon? In the afternoon, they come unto a land in which it seemed always afternoon. The atmosphere of island is so sullen that it seemed always afternoon. All round the coast, the languid air did swim. Here, I'll try to explain you what kind of atmosphere was on that island. This could be due to the heat, or he said that it was always afternoon. This could be due to the heat or the activities of those that it said on the island. The air seemed to move very slowly along the island, and that's why it is languid or swooning. These words foreshadow the change that will come over the men as soon as they taste the lotus fruit. The air of the land is further compared to the breathing like one that hath a weary dream. Now, weary dreams are here the poet is using transferred epithet. Dream are not weary, but the people who have dream, they are weary. Okay, so the air of the land is further compared to breathing as if one in a dream. Each breath is long and required effort. The moon is standing full faced above the valley, and from there a stream waves its way along the cliff, pausing and falling, and all it seems. So all these lines create an atmosphere. What kind of atmosphere? This line tells us how Odysseus and his men reached to an island, and what kind of atmosphere of that island was. Okay, now come to the second stanza. A land of stream. Again, he tells us about the atmosphere of that particular island. A land of stream, some like a downward smoke, slow dropping wells of thinnest land did go, and some through waving lights and shadow broke, rolling a slumberous seed of home below. They saw the glimmering river seaward flow from the inner land, far off, three mountain tops, three silent pinnacles of aged snow, stood sunset flushed and dewed with showery drops, up clumb the shadowy pine above the woven copse. The same thing he's telling about the atmosphere of that particular island. In the second stanza of the poem, the speaker is sharing his amazement. So Odysseus' party feel upon seeing this island. It seems that this is the land of streams. There are different kind of around there. There are some thin and some lumbering and powerful. Each of these streams connect to one river that is flowing toward sea. Seaward toward sea. Far in the distance, the travelers and the omniscient narrator are able to see three mountain tops, and that are like three old monuments of aged snow. Aged snow means very old snow, snow that has fallen long back. They are standing strong in the sunlight underneath of the warmth. There is mention of shadowy pine, one dominating pine tree that is covered with dew and appeared to upclimb or climb up the woven copse or a small grouping of trees. This one larger tree is grander than the rest, and it is only seen to grow larger as they stare at the scene before them. So again, atmosphere of the island is given in this stanza. Now come to the third stanza. The charm sunset lingered low adown in the red west through mountain cleft the dale was seen far indeed, and the yellow dawn bordered with palm and many a winding vale and meadow, set with slender gully angle, a land where all things always seemed the same, and round about the Nile with face pale, dark faces pale against the rosy flame, the mild-eyed melancholic lotus eaters came. Now, in this third stanza, we see that as soon as they reach there, some inhabitants of that island come to the mariners. So again, after giving some atmospheric description, he tells us what the sun is setting when they reach. The sun is setting when they arrive. The afternoon is moving on, but it is not moving quickly. It has a lingered low, endowing with the west with red. The speaker and the mariners can see through or through the mountains to what is a dale or large valley. Further in the distance, even though they have just landed and are at the sea level, they are still high enough to see far into distance. The land seemed to be bordered with palm trees and many a wandering vale and meadows. In these places and in the meadow, the speaker is able to see galliangle, a type of sage found in the Europe and Asia. This land is one. There is some technical problem. I think I have to reconnect again. Okay, the technical issue, and we will resume. This land seemed to be bordered with palm trees and many a wandering gale and meadow. In these places and in the meadow, the speaker is able to see galliangle. What is galliangle? A type of sage found in Europe and Asia. So this land is one which these things are equally beautiful. They are all part of one another and make up to the living environment. What it is said, a land where all things always seem the same. So the men are still on the boat and the speaker described them looking down and seeing that while they have been entranced by the land, the lotus eaters has come. Inhabitants of that place come. They are gathered around the keel of the ship and they are looking up to them with their mild melancholy eyes and pale dark faces. Now try to understand these two things. Their faces are pale and their eyes are full of mild melancholy. So such kind of inhabitants of that place come to them and they have some lotus. Okay. So come to the next stanza. Okay. Branches they bore of that enchanted stem, laden with flowers and fruit, whereof they gave to each, but whoso did receive of them and taste to them the gushing of the wave, far, far away did seem to mourn and rave on alien shore. And if his fellow spake, his voice was thin as voices from the grave, and deep asleep he seemed yet all awake, and music in his ears, his breathing, his breathing heart did make. Now come to this stanza, and we see that what happens with them as soon as they eat the lotus. Okay, so the speaker continues his narrative by describing that the inhabitants of this place, the lotus eaters, especially the name is given, they come some fruits for the sellers, and they all had the branches that bore that enchanted stem. The branches were filled with the fruit and flowers on the lotus plant, which the lotus eaters shared with each man from the ship. After eating from the plant, the men were overcome. When they tasted, come into the men like the gushing of the waves and made their problems seem very distant. Each man became extraordinarily tired, and their voices sounded like those of dead persons coming from the grave. They were all still awake, but only a semi-consciousness state. It was if they were both asleep and awake at the same time. The fruit had some kind of magical effect on the men and cast a spell upon their intentions. Each became consumed solely with their own self. The only thing they could hear was the beating of their own hearts. As I have told you, we can see the effect of those lotus on the sailors, on the mariners. So, as soon as they tasted that fruit given by the lotus eaters, they seemed in the half asleep, half awakened state, and they forgot their every problem. Now come to the next stanza. They sat down upon the yellow sand between the sun and upon the shore, between the sun and moon upon the shore, and sweet it was to dream of fatherland, of child and wife and slave. But every more, most weary seemed the sea, weary the oar, weary the wandering fields of barren foam. Then someone said, "We will return no more." And all at once they sang, "Our island home is far beyond the waves. We will no longer roam." So, in this last stanza, before the second half of the poem begins, the men confess a new desire. They sat themselves down upon the yellow sand at the beach of the land, at the shore of this sea. Their thoughts were cast to fatherland, their homeland, and all that was waiting for them there. They seemed of child and wife and slave and all they left behind, but their desire for home was now deeply outweighed by their weariness. They no longer felt they had the energy or need to return to the ship and face the ocean once again. The men were more than content to remain with the lotus eaters for the rest of their lives. They were weary, they were weary, and on vast expansion of the because of that so much travel, there so much travels, a sight which can once give them all pleasure and excited their inner adventure now means nothing. They returned to one another and said that they would return no more. They did not want to return to the odorous 10 years journey. They state that their island means Ithaca. Ithaca is far beyond the waves. It is too far for them to reach or even try to get back to. They decide they will no longer return, they will no longer roam. So, with this decision, all of the mariners sit there and they begin to sing a choric song. The choric song we will study in the next part. But they sat down and began to, and in that choric song, they give reason after reason for their not returning to their homeland, not returning to their Ithaca. Okay, I think you have got the idea of this poem. So we stop.